I've had so many nights over the last couple years when I'm just laying in bed and suddenly my mind just sort of thinks, I'm completely wasting my life away. And I don't know if it's because I'm constantly scrolling on social media, doing the doom scrolling every single night. And I constantly am just seeing people that I grew up with, buying new houses, getting married, graduating from college, starting new businesses. But I've always just wondered if I'm on the right path or if I'm ever going to be on the right path in life or even the path that I just want to be on. I think a lot of people think this way, even though they won't admit it, they feel this way. And one of the biggest reasons we kind of feel this way is that we're constantly comparing our lives to everybody else's lives, and social media has a big part of that. When you go on social media, it seems like everyone has figured it out. People be posting themselves traveling the world, going from one, fantastic place to the next, or they'll post their dream car that they just bought or some fancy car that they bought. But what they don't show is all the failures and setbacks that had happened before in their lives that got them to the point of success. And while we're comparing ourselves behind the scenes, we don't see those, failures or setbacks that we also are going through. It's a comparison that is a lose lose. You're never going to win that comparison. I think the hardest part about being in your early to mid and maybe even late 20s is that, the life that you had planned out when you were a kid isn't the life that is happening or is going to happen for you. For me, I thought by the time I was 25, I'd have my dream job, I'd have a ton of friends, and be doing exactly what I wanted to. And what I wanted to do was work in sports in some capacity. And I'm not. I'm going back to school and I'm still trying to figure things out. And honestly, I think it's more normal than what a lot of people think because success is something that is defined in a lot of different ways. Progress isn't usually something that we can see. You know, for me personally, progress is, learning new skills, applying for new jobs, working on myself, whether it's, health wise or mentally, just working on myself or building a YouTube channel or going back to school. Those are two things that I'm working on that people aren't necessarily seeing. And they're something that I enjoy and that I'm doing. And it's something that I'm not gonna see a payoff overnight. It's something that might take months or maybe even years to, see some sort of payoff. Especially with things like YouTube, I might not see any sort of payoff for months or for years. And with school, I'm not gonna be seeing any sort of payoff for at least a couple years and maybe even a couple years after I graduate. And if I'm lucky, I may see some payoff with YouTube in a couple weeks or a couple months, but that's just something that may or may not happen. It all depends on how things go. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's easy for us to define success as one thing, but there's multiple definitions of success, or at least you can have your own definition of success, whether it's money, a great career, buying a new house, or whatever it is that you think success is. Success is something that is all about you in a way. Whether it's making sure that you're being healthy or being more fit or making sure that you have people around you that genuinely care about you and finding work that you just actually enjoy. Those are things that you don't see on social media, but you're working on or hopefully working on. It's something that I definitely have been working on over the years. A lot of it is I've been working on my physical and mental health over the last couple of years, and nobody is seeing that on social media. Maybe until now that I'm talking about it. But I think the fear of wasting your life will never kind of go away. But it does change in a way. As a kid, all I worried about was, school and grades. Getting good grades, getting straight A's, and then sports. That's all I really cared about. And then as I got into my 20s, I've really cared about relationships or school again, but this time it's going back to school. Also, finding the right path for myself. And it always feels like we're running out of time. And it always feels like there's something that's telling us we're running out of time, whether it's social media or, other people doing great things and you see it and you feel like, man, what am I doing? I'm running out of time. I need to be successful right now. So that fear of like wasting your life is never going to go away, but there are ways it definitely will change. I think if you've ever felt like you're wasting your life, you're not alone. You're just at a point in time where, nothing's really exciting or you're not where you want to be. For me, I don't really feel like anything's exciting just yet. I think in the future, maybe soon, hopefully soon, things will be super exciting, especially with going back to school. And a lot of the things that I've wanted in life are just taking longer than expected. Not everyone lives the same life. So some people do great things sooner than other people do. Some people become way more successful than other people. And it's hard to tell when anyone's going to be successful or when anyone's going to do that big thing. But I'd love to hear from you guys. Have you ever really felt like you were kind of wasting your life or falling behind in a way? Is there anything that helped you move forward in life and got you out of that point where you felt like you were wasting your life? I'd definitely love to hear from you guys in the comments. I think this is going to be about it. So if you're still watching, thank you for clicking on the video. Thank you for spending the time watching, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Peace.